you have any plans about seeing tomorrow, there's one thing you never, ever put in a trap.
And what would that be, sir?
Me.
Blink and you're dead. They are fast, faster than you could believe. Don't turn your back. Don't look away, and don't blink.
Everybody lives, Rose. Just this once! Everybody lives!
It's more than just a secret, isn't it? Your eyes are younger than I've ever seen you.
Doctor Who.
Are you my mummy?
To settle down, huh? Sister. Hey, who turned out the lights?
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the third season of an Unearthly podcast. We are recording live on June 6, 2014 and featuring The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances. Written by Stephen Moffat, as will be the vast majority of the episodes we look at for the next several months. I am the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
Hello.
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Always a pleasure.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello.
And our newcomer, Tim Sheridan.
Hi. What? He doesn't have a screen name?
Well, I thought of calling myself the most powerful man in the universe, but I figured that just goes without saying.
Right. Fred it is. Hello, Fred.
Yes, I'm Fred. Fred Flintstone. Yabba dabba doo. I like Doctor Who.
You're a poet and didn't know it.
He makes a rhyme every time.
Woohoo.
Okay.
And you can follow us, as always, you can follow us at twitch.tv/madmat2185, twitter.com/unearthlypod, facebook.com/unearthlypodcast, and youtube.com/maninblackreviews. If you haven't visited the latter one recently, there are some new playlists up that some of you might be interested in, so go ahead and give it a look. In the news this week, the Five-ish Doctors reboot has a DVD release planned, although a specific region or release date have not been mentioned.
It would be awesome if we get it.
It's possible we'll get it. I mean, we are getting Adventures in Space and Time, so
before Britain, aren't we?
Possibly. It's out soon. I have to order it for the con, so I actually have to do that pretty darn soon here.
Actually, I think we're both getting it at the same time, actually. Which is
I
still
seem to remember
unusual.
the Region 1 being announced before Region 2, at least.
It might have been announced. I think they're coming out at the same time, more or less.
Oh, okay.
And these days, Matt, it's not that much of a difference anymore. I mean, it used to be a thing, but they don't really have to do the NTSC PAL translation anymore.
Still
usually it's just the fact that they'll need to, no, not since video went digital.
Oh, I thought the whole
especially
point
since
was
the conversion, especially since the conversion to HD. HD does not use NTSC or PAL.
Are most TVs the HD though?
No, but the DVD decryptor, the actual DVD hardware handles the NTSC PAL mods.
Oh, okay.
The DVD just gives the raw video audio format. And the DVD provides all the frameworks and stuff.
Gotcha.
So it's not as big of a deal as it used to be. It's not taking 2 years to transfer stuff from across the pond.
Right.
Usually, at this point, it's just they have to run off a certain series for their local market, and then they'll run off a certain series for their international market. So it's just lack of stampers, more or less. Anywho, yes, Five-ish Doctors. I mean, it wasn't that long, so it's like almost a shame to waste a DVD on it.
Right. I wonder if there's going to be more special features on it or something.
I would assume so.
I would have to think so.
Maybe. I feel like this should just be put on the Day of the Doctor DVD. Like
it should have been put on the Day of the Doctor DVD. It's not because I own the Day of the Doctor Blu-ray.
What is there to include on this that wasn't on the Day of the Doctor DVD?
Behind the scenes.
On how this particular bit came about.
I'm sure there's plenty of weird, really long and weird behind-the-scenes stuff that they could probably be using.
Davis and Tennant family videos.
And him trying to convince the other doctors to go along with this little spoof, and because they only kind of partially got McGann, you noticed.
This maybe this one will have a never before seen cut of Tom Baker in his red uniform announcing how all of the doctors must get together because there's a grave threat to classic Who in the form of Day of the Doctor. And then he will not be seen again for the rest of the special.
I heard that smack through the internet.
You are mentioning that which should not be named.
I didn't name it. I did not name it.
Yes, but you are referencing it. Black card, Bill. Black card.
So you.
Black card, Bill. Conversation's over.
The proper term is
white card. Conversation continue. Black card. Conversation's over.
That sounds like a pirate name. Black Card Bill.
That sounds awesome.
Next, Randy will write an H and frosting on his forehead. You never learn, do you?
Actually, I was quoting Red Dwarf.
Yes.
I cannot remember which particular episode. Oh, yes, I remember now.
The one where Lister wants to be a chef.
Yeah, it's the one where Lister was trying to convince Rimmer to be shut down for a bit so he could boot up the hologram of Christine Kachansky. And Rimmer going, no. Okay, Red Dwarf aside,
That's the end of our news tangenting.
Yeah, that's it, because there's not really much else for news. Nobody died. Here, there's a news bit. Nobody died.
To be fair, lately that's not as much news. We've had one death. We've only had one death since the Ronnie.
Yeah, and that's minor. But still.
And for those who think Randy's being insensitive, his point is that she was an actress who played in one two-parter and isn't really a Doctor Who name that any of us know anything about. Not that her death doesn't matter.
She died of a good run, so...
Yeah, she died at 84.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's nobody died in the last, month or so, or nobody died in the last couple of weeks. Nobody died, nobody's birthday was in the last week that we saw. So,
all the birthdays were on the same day.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
half
sure
the
Some
usual birthdays were
amazing
all on the same day.
temporal coincidence. Some absolutely amazing temporal coincidence. Yes, a lot of the birthdays for Doctor Who actors, actresses, and production staff are all on the same day. How about that? Anyway, that means that we get to move straight on. Was there anything more we had to do before going on to the main feature? Aaron covered.
I'm just going to mention, I'm not sure if we've really explained what we're doing and why yet, so I'm just going to take a few moments.
Sure.
Essentially, what we're looking at over the next few months is, as most people who watch Doctor Who or listen to this podcast should be aware, Stephen Moffat is the executive producer and the primary writer for Doctor Who in its current incarnation, as in from 2010 on to now.
Unfortunately.
So, we've covered about half a dozen or so of episodes that he's written just by doing Series 7 and the 11th Hour and the Series 7 specials.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And the odd episode here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what we're going to be doing from here is taking a look at everything else he's written for Doctor Who and seeing, look at his master plan, his vision of Doctor Who, and see the direction everything's going, to get a better idea of what Series 8 is about.
Do we have an overarching name for this, Bill?
Moffatopolis.
How about Mind of Moffat?
Sure.
Okay, well, if you recall, our last run was Endings and Beginnings, where we did all of the Doctor's finales and all the Doctor's first episodes.
Right.
So now we move on.
And for anybody who missed last week we did Moffat's first contribution to Doctor Who, which was as far outside of canon as the thing that Randy won't let me talk about. Curse of Fatal Death was a bit of our segue from Regenerations into Moffat.
Because it was also a regeneration bit, yeah.
Yeah. So last time we got to look at Moffat's sense of humor and his idea of what a parody of Doctor Who should be. Today we get to look at the first episode of what he thinks a scary Doctor Who episode should be.
Yes. Alright, so who's up to do the actual episode summary? It will not be me, as I have not watched this episode this week. I'm recalling it from memory. And
did last week.
This episode has been burned into my memory.
I'm really not good with summaries.
Bill, how about you?
I have the same excuse as Aaron, but I'll do it.
I'm terrible. Why would you ask me?
I apologize in advance if everything is a great ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
It's Doctor Who. We deal with it. Get on with it.
Get on with it.
Alright, the Doctor and Rose are cruising along, doing their thing, when they find a mauve object floating in space. This alerts the Doctor, as mauve is the intergalactic color of danger, except on Earth, where it's red. The Doctor points out there have been many misunderstandings and lots of dancing caused by red alerts. They follow this mauve object, and it goes into the time vortex. So they follow it and wind up in, not yet realizing, the London Blitz. The Doctor goes into, I forget if it was a specific, if he knew what type of building it was, or it was just the nearest building. But he goes into a building.
It's just the nearest building.
It's like a club or a pub or something.
A lounge kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and he asks if, not having any idea when and where he is, he asks if anyone has seen an object falling from the sky that made a big bang recently. As he's asking this, he sees a poster, realizing that there are many objects falling from the sky and creating a big bang around this time period. Essentially German bombs.
Mm-hmm.
While the Doctor is doing that, Rose finds this child that seems to be walking around looking for its mother. She tries to help it and ends up, for whatever reason, hanging from a
barrage balloon.
There we go. Yeah, barrage balloon. It was on the tip of my tongue.
That's why I'm here to help with words you forget.
Sure. She is found by a mysterious individual who seems to know about things such as cell phones and technology, who catches her in a tractor beam and brings her to the surface. He eventually, after some flirting between him and Rose, I believe he also introduces himself as
Captain Jack Harkness, and the fangirls immediately started squeeing. Go on, Bill.
He then, under the impression that Rose and the Doctor are time agents, attempts to sell them what he claims is a warship that needs his expertise to be rescued from the German bombs within 2 hours.
I think he also named the species, didn't he? Chula warship?
Yes, it was Chula, something like that. This is in fact a giant con. The intention is that it's actually a hollowed out, empty hospital ship that is going to be destroyed by bombs before he can get to it, and the person he's selling it to has any chance of discovering his deception.
It is Chula, by the way, Chula.
Okay.
According to TARDIS wiki.
Great. Okay. So while Rose is off with Jack going through this, the Doctor discovers that the fake phone in the TARDIS is ringing, and a local girl tells him that it is not for him and that he should not answer it. So, curious as to why his fake phone is ringing and why this girl knows he should not pick it up, he follows her and sees her essentially leading a group of homeless orphans who scrounge for food when everybody else is in the bomb shelters. He compliments on her scam, and then the same child that Rose was helping before shows up, and everybody runs terrified. The Doctor heeds their warnings to stay away, while at the same time trying to help the child. Because of wondering what's going on with this and wondering if it's connected to the object that he was following, he tracks down some information and learns that a strange bomb fell from the sky and that there is a doctor that knows information about it. I'm not entirely certain how. Oh no, I think Rose was looking for him at this point. I think that's how they met back up. Is that right?
I think so.
So the doctor essentially.
I think they both wind up in the hospital at the same time.
Oh, okay. So they meet up with this doctor who's been caring for the cases of what's going on, where they discover that what's essentially happening is an epidemic of everybody who touches one of the affected people ends up having various injuries, deformities, and a gas mask on their face. At which point the doctor realizes that for some reason these people's, I'm not sure if it's DNA that he says or something to that effect, sciencey wyancy, is being rewritten by some force that doesn't quite understand what they're supposed to be like. This would be a bad, oh well. We're not too worried about spoiling if we're giving a summary, so I should also mention at this point that earlier in the episode, Captain Jack used what essentially was a spray of nanomachines, essentially, to repair some skin damage on Rose's hand.
Mm-hmm. Nanogenes.
Nanogenes, that was the term used. As the Doctor's discovering this, of course, it's time for the episode cliffhanger, so we get a group of a dozen, perhaps more, afflicted individuals of various ages and sizes coming to attack the Doctor, Rose, and Jack. The Doctor sends them to their room. They then go on trying to learn more and find themselves in what essentially is the empty child's room, where there is a recording of him. Okay, and I'm trying to remember the greater relevance of that room beyond that, if anything.
the tape was playing the child's voice, and then the tape actually
there was-
stopped, and they still
right.
started talking.
From there, the three try to escape from the advancing empty child, during which they do such things as compare sonic devices. Take that as the euphemism that it's intended to be.
Yep.
Not as much as the 10th and 11th Doctor comparing screwdrivers. That was even more of a euphemism of the same type.
Or the 10th Doctor and the Master. It's laser.
Anyway,
Yeah.
go on, Bill.
They escape and they go to the girl who they've been told knows more about what's going on than she's let on. I believe her name is Alice. Is that right?
I'm trying to remember.
Oh, I can't.
I'm looking. Give me a moment. Keep going, and I will tell you.
At this point, if I'm leaving out anything before the climax that I should mention, now would be a good time to remind me.
The fact that the before the the girl's name was Nancy, by the way.
Nancy.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Before the climax, the Doctor has a sit-down conversation with Nancy, and does establish the fact that Nancy is the mother of the child, but has never told him such. Has preferred to, because she was really young when she had the child. Yes, there was a sit-down conversation.
I thought that actually happened during the climax. That it's actually said.
No, the climax.
Yeah.
Like I think he becomes aware of it earlier, but I don't think it's actually said to the audience.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. There's a whole dialogue with it, and then it eventually the part of the climax is you have to tell him.
I thought that was the climax.
That is the climax.
Yeah, it's the climax scene, Randy.
They all meet at the ambulance ship.
Okay, so eventually there are essentially two major reveals two major discoveries that one of them might not have been the Doctor. That one definitely is. The other one reveal is that Nancy is the boy's mother. So while he's walking around saying, "Are you my mummy?" he's actually trying to find the correct genetic code from which he came. The other reveal is that what's causing this plague is essentially the same type of nanogenes that were used to heal Rose's hand. They're trying to heal humanity, but their idea of what a human looks like is this damaged, injured, gas mask wearing child. By putting these two together, once Nancy reveals to the empty child that she is in fact its mother, or his in the case of the no longer existing human version, the nanogenes finally figure out what the correct version of a human body is like, and everybody who's been affected by them gets essentially healed to perfect health, with the Doctor giving his trademark line that for some reason is not on my Doctor Who soundboard. But it's essentially the best known line from this episode, and it was in our trailer for season 3.
Everybody lives.
Everybody lives, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Which unfortunately would become less relevant later in the Moffat years as everybody continues to live.
Yeah.
Even villains.
But this was a massive victory for the war survivor Doctor, who is so used to watching
had a day like
die
that in a long time.
So having just this once where everybody lives, he is ecstatic.
Yes.
From there, I almost left out the ending there. I'm trying to remember where the bomb came from that Jack was... Oh, no, the bomb was in the hospital ship, right?
No.
The Germans were bombing this thing.
Yeah, the Germans were going to bomb in the next Blitz attack.
No,
Captain Jack hijacked one of the bombs. And,
so it was just a regular drop on London
old
bomb?
German bomb, yes.
Oh, I thought it was
although
it
had the name... other than the fact that apparently its code name was Schlechterwolf, which is bad wolf in German.
Of course it was.
Clever.
I was wondering
Other than
where
that,
Wolf appeared in that episode.
Other than that, the thing is that he hijacks the bomb, holds it off for the Doctor to fix everybody, and then beams the bomb onto the Chula warship, which he does actually have and has been using in his personal transport, and sails off into space, perfectly willing to blow himself up with the bomb.
Right. He then decides to go out with, I think it was a glass of champagne.
It was a martini.
It was a martini. Okay, so he decides to go out in luxury.
He drinks it and mentions too much vermouth.
So yes, he's drinking.
See
that,
if I ever come here again.
Yes, he does say that. He's planning to go out in luxury, and then suddenly a blue box appears, and the episode ends
with the Doctor dancing in the TARDIS.
Yes.
With Rose, while Jack looks on, bemused.
So how did I do?
Not bad. A little long. I think a little detailed. Too detailed in some areas, but not bad. We have time to kill this episode, as it's not even half hour in, and we're already to the discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically we've got the empty child and the Doctor dances. Really, there's very hard to tell where one starts and the other begins. There's no really good areas where you can say it's this, 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 and this.
Well, I'm like, actually, this is probably the only two-parter I can really think of in New Who that's essentially one story split into two parts rather than two very strongly connected stories.
Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel also has that same...
No, because I don't think there are any Cybermen until the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I think the Cybermen show up at the cliffhanger.
They show up a little earlier than that, but not much.
They're foreshadowed, but that they're not point blank.
Mm-hmm. Either way, it does feel...
This is before the New Who style of two-parter is really solidly cemented, and it's pretty much an 88-minute story instead of two strongly connected but very distinct 44-minute stories.
40. Would it be 42? I thought the average Doctor Who length was 42 minutes.
It might be 42.
Hence the name of the episode, 42.
Mm-hmm.
True.
With other references, yeah.
So it would be 84 episode.
Although I do think there were some episodes that were as long as 50 minutes for whatever reason.
That's an average length.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell. They can be as short as 40 and as big as 46, 47.
I got to 44 because I was thinking of the fact that the 30-minute episodes are actually 22 minutes, so I just thought it was double that.
No, there's a variance in there. I've been actually watching other shows, and that's a fairly common number for a show. Is about 42 to 43 minutes.
The things you notice in the post-commercials age.
Things to notice when you're watching stuff in Windows Media Player.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk about the beginning. I guess you could say the early Blitz stuff. Well, first of all, we've got the chasing the Chula warship, and yes, the whole mauve thing versus the red alert, all that dancing. Which
I wish that they had followed up on that in another episode just to make it a little more worth bringing up.
And in fact, I think the next time we do see a alert status, it's a red alert again.
So much for that.
Like, what would be really interesting would be, for example, and I'm not sure we've actually gotten this, essentially if they were to show an episode where humanity, really branches out and encounters aliens intentionally for the first time, something like, the equivalent, for Star Trek would be the equivalent of First Contact with the Vulcans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually love to see... I've mentioned before I like the Conians back from the Third Doctor era. I would love to have a Doctor Who episode where the humans meet the Draconians for the first time.
They would be one of the more friendly ones, if still slightly Klingon-ish.
It would be cool, because it would also bring back a classic villain, which I'm always, kind of thumbs up on. Or a classic alien, anyway.
Yeah, Alien.
Well, they were. I think they were villains because the Master and the Daleks were trying to make them and humans hate each other.
Yeah, they were the race that humans were on the brink of war with.
And then they found out the real mastermind.
Yep. Still, we haven't seen them since the space war. So
Yeah.
it would actually be. It would actually be nice.
About the Draconians, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we were saying.
Because they were only ever in one Doctor Who serial, and that was way back in the early 70s. Still, it was one of the best.
Okay.
It was still one of the best costume bits that they had in the 70s. I would love to see a version updated like they did with the Silurians and the Ice Warriors.
And of course, their primary purpose was to build up for Terry Nation remaking the Dalek, or remaking the serial The Daleks.
Yeah, trying to add a little something other than what Terra Nation usually did at the time.
They also need a Draconian Silurian.
What?
What?
Remember that one short I showed you from Jennifer and Saunders? It says right here in the script, I'm a Draconian Silurian!
That doesn't count.
I don't want to think about that. I really don't.
They also were convinced that they were on Siluria, which is the same place, which would be the same place as Telluria.
I forgot what else she said she was. She was Draconian Silurian something. Consular or something like that.
That was her rank. Although she was... Anyway, without...
We're not really discussing that skit.
Right.
Fanfiction aside.
But anyway, my point is, it would be nice to see an episode where a human Red Alert with alien crew people actually causes confusion and mayhem and
dancing.
Yes,
dancing. One aliens dancing, dang it!
Or what if the first time that humans meet aliens, they're all wearing mauve jumpsuits and
then they die because they're dancing during a Red Alert and terrible things happen.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about this part of the episode?
No, it was basically. I mean, this is the pre-bit bump, and that was really the only.
Is this where Rose mentions the Doctor like not dancing and such, or no?
No, that comes up later.
Okay.
Later.
Yeah, because this. I mean, literally, you just watch him as he mentions, the whole thing about Red Alert, all that dancing. And then mentions the time shifting, and they start adjusting for time, and comes in for a landing, right into Earth, and opening credits. And
then they have a comedy scene where Rose criticizes the Doctor's driving, and he asks if she wants to drive.
I don't think she ever gets to. I think she's part of the group of 6 that drive at the end of the 4th season, but
yeah,
she drives in about 2 or 3 episodes.
I wouldn't call that driving.
No, but I think that if that's foreshadowing anything, it's that.
That's Rose with a yellow truck saving the universe by power of the mind. And becoming a brief Mary Sue, and then not being one.
Yeah.
But that's a different episode, and that's a different writer.
Yes.
If we ever want to do
this was written under the watchful eye of the writer of that episode, so that's not saying that it can't.
According to Russell T Davies, he never had to edit any of Moffat's work.
True, but he wrote the brief.
Maybe. We really actually don't know how Russ did his editing work.
True.
I'll just say that he did a better job of it than Moffat's apparently doing.
Yes.
Either by actually editing or knowing who to actually hire as a writer. one or the other. It worked. Most of the basic scripts worked better at that point. But Moffat scripts were working at that point, and this is what we're on. Okay, so yes, the Doctor lands in an alleyway in London. In London. I mean...
He doesn't know when he is, but he knows where he is.
Yeah, he knows it's a lot of brickwork. He knows he's smack dab in the middle of London.
Which, granted, is a place that he is very familiar with.
How many times has the TARDIS appeared in London? I'm surprised he didn't appear in Totter's Lane. Just saying.
Yeah, he does seem
TARDIS
to
kind of
visit regularly.
And
at least he didn't run into Matt Smith and Winston Churchill,
who are probably right now on the other side of the city having this issue.
Yeah.
With the Daleks.
And he doesn't run into Jack and Willis. Is that his name?
What are you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about there.
The guy, fucking...
The scientist?
No, the old man that was essentially written as sort of like an evil First Doctor analog, but he was the servant of, fuck.
I have no
The climax of Torchwood Season 1.
I have no clue, Bill.
I mean, the season finale, I mean.
All I can remember with the first season, and mind you, it's been a long time since I watched the first season of Torchwood, is Captain Jack looking at Big Ass Demon Thing.
Yeah.
Yes, the Big Ass Demon Thing. He worked for the Big Ass Demon Thing.
I think he was just the image, Bill. I don't think he was an actual real person.
He was very much.
But I know who you're. I know. I actually think you're talking about a couple episodes prior, when they actually find out going back in time.
Yeah, it's a two-parter.
Yeah, and that was probably in a different part of London. Not to mention, of course, half a continent over, the 11th Doctor and River Song are attempting to kill Hitler or not kill Hitler, probably at about the same time, too.
Continuity! Makes you
and
go cross-eyed.
Just making this up as we go.
In the other direction, the 7th Doctor and Ace are dealing with their own demon thing.
Yeah, a few miles to the north. They're dealing with Fenric. More or less at the same time, too. More or less at the same time, too. You know, it's surprised
and across the ocean, there are some ponds.
The way they keep referencing World War II in Doctor Who, you would think that World War II was a big deal to the British.
Or something.
You would think. Or you would think the TARDIS has traveled through this time zone so much the entire thing would become time-locked and the Doctor would never be able to visit it again.
Like certain other Moffat stories!
What is this D-Day thing that everyone's talking about? I don't know. I've never heard of it before. It's not like it's the 70th anniversary of it or anything.
Oh, yeah. That actually is worth bringing up.
I just realized that today in the afternoon that, hey, it's D-Day.
I didn't actually realize that, but I've been, watching Arrow for the last 24 hours.
I think I saw one thing. I think it was like they painted or did designs of bodies in the sand.
It actually is convenient. I guess you could call it that. We're talking about Doctor Who's, I think, second foray into World War II on the anniversary of D-Day.
Yep, on this day, God, it was a long time ago, wasn't it? 72 years ago.
No, actually, I think it was 70 years ago.
Was it 44, D-Day?
Yeah, June 6, 1944.
Right. Yep, 70 years ago today, then, my grandfather stormed the beach in Normandy and got shot in the stomach.
Oh.
Ouchies.
Well, I thank him for his sacrifice.
Yeah, well, he lived until 1993, I think. But he actually died from complications from his wounds received in that battle. because he would have chronic he'd have chronic blood pressure drop-offs, just sporadically. And one time it happened while no one was at home, and my Uncle Joe came in for his lunch break and found my grandfather on the floor.
By the way, guys, here's the man I was talking about.
But, he was in his, 70s or 80s at the time, so good run or close to a good run anyway.
Yeah, Bill, I don't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure. Oh, weird. If they did have a background for him, they kind of hurried it.
The thing is, they never really figured out what he was, other than that he existed in multiple time zones at once, was able to mentally manipulate people, and was a servant of Abaddon.
Yeah,
anything else might have been...
Wait, he existed in multiple time zones at once?
He existed in, at least in World War II and the modern day at the same time, and was aware, and seemed to somehow be aware of each other, but they don't really explain if he's traveling through time or if it's like a City of Death situation or what. There's really no...
Yeah, I was going to say, he's actually Count Scarleone, right? You pull off the head and there's just a bunch of frickin' tentacle things there and one big frickin' eye.
That would have been more interesting.
Although considering his whole goal was to make them open the Cardiff Rift, it's an...
Did we just lose a Bill? We just lost a Bill.
Yep, we lost a Bill.
You got Bill.
No.
Come back.
Bill!
Skype?
Okay, are you back with us now? Yes.
Yeah.
Don't make me
but
down
it's
there.
possible that he somehow travels through the Cardiff Rift.
So one day in ancient history, he farted and blew up and created the Cardiff Rift, and there it is.
Of course.
Just saying. Anyway, but those are different episodes, so let's focus right back down to this one.
Oh yeah, we've been going on to every World War II episode.
So it's obvious, the doctor goes to the door. He's obviously in, what's supposed to be like a 40th or a 1940s lounge or USO area or something. And he pretty much gets up on the stage and starts doing what everyone else thinks is stand-up.
Right, because he's asking, has anyone seen a big thing fall from the sky and make a big noise?
And everybody starts tittering.
Yeah. And actually, I think there's a point in that where, Rose is complaining about, why don't you ever use any of your technology?
Why don't you scan for alien tech? Come on, show me some Spock.
That's the first time she calls him Spock.
Yeah. And I think that points out one of the strengths of this series is that the message is, at the end of the day, there's nothing beats the mind or, the will itself, or ingenuity.
She's asking him to make a search check while he's deciding he has more ranks and gather information.
Pretty much.
And, it also kind of shows the doctor's mentality. He prefers not to rely on technology when he can accomplish the same thing by, socializing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it makes him look silly.
Yeah, it does, because, later on in the episode, Jack Harkness locates the doctor by doing a scan for alien tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Rose gets excited about that.
And I'm fairly certain that the screwdriver could do a scan for alien tech.
Oh yeah, probably. If it couldn't then, it can by now.
It could probably summon it to him if he really wanted it to.
I'm surprised the doctor hasn't.
For the sonic screwdriver is the Deus Ex Machina device.
Yeah. It's kind of, its original function was simply that to unlock screws. It could be used to pick locks, too, by moving the tumbler. And it's kind of developed into this multi-tool of doom. It was the reason that they took it away during the Fifth Doctor era, because the Doctor was, it was the solution to every problem. It became the Wesley. So when they wrote it out, they didn't think it would be coming back. But the problem is the Doctor with his sonic screwdriver was such an iconic image thanks to the Tom Baker era that when they brought the series back, they didn't feel comfortable bringing it back without the sonic screwdriver. And it's now become such an ingrained portion of the show that I think the story author that ever suggests, we should get rid of the screwdriver, would be summarily beaten down. And
I don't know. I kind of feel like this, like Series 8, would be the perfect time to recommend having the same thing happen. Just because, we just had the sonic screwdriver essentially function as the plot device to saving Gallifrey.
Yeah, but at the same time...
It's about, we're having a new Doctor. There's supposed to be massive changes. They're hearkening back to Classic Who in several ways, or at least want us to feel that they are. Going back to the Visitation would not be a terrible idea.
Yeah, except for who was it that gave the idea that they should get rid of the sonic screwdriver?
Was it Turner or was it somebody else?
Yes, it was John Nathan Turner. Therefore, any story writer that ever suggests that same thing will be summarily executed and dumped in the same shallow grave as John Nathan Turner.
I'm sure
of course,
John
after
Nathan
being
Turner
mauled and dragged off to the curb first.
I'm sure John Nathan Turner had at least one good idea that was well liked.
I'm thinking. I don't know. All I know is it's not going to be me that makes that recommendation if I ever became script editor, because I don't want to know where Jimmy Hoffa is.
Well, did he try pushing K9? Kids like K9.
Also, not popular with the population who likes K9. Popular with the production staff who hated working with K9.
Well, just because the tech wasn't up for it.
It was also John Nathan Turner who approved the use of Chameleon, which turned out to be the biggest snafu in Doctor Who history.
Only because one guy died. I don't think we can blame
the guy
him.
that knew the machine code to make it work died.
Yeah.
Without telling anyone else the machine code.
Right, but I don't think John Nathan Turner can be blamed for that part.
K9 was always breaking down, Aaron.
Yeah.
Chameleon didn't get really a chance to not break down because they used it maybe 3 times before getting rid of it. So it doesn't get to quantify with an always. It was a pain in the ass to use. And like I said, only one guy knew the machine code, and he had a horrible car accident and died. That's the second most lethal thing other than cancer for Doctor Who production staff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how Roger Delgado died.
Mm-hmm.
That's how quite a few of them died, actually.
Mm-hmm. You've got your car accidents, and you've got your cancer, then you got your car accidents.
In
other words, Doctor Who veterans, stay away from Top Gear.
Yeah!
I was going to say, it was such a cheerful topic we've been on.
Doctor Who veterans, if Richard Hammond offers you a ride, don't get in the car. Stay away from the hamster. He is dangerous.
And I don't know about the hamster, but the lead foot and Captain Slow.
No. Richard Hammond has been in more accidents than anyone else on the Top Gear staff.
Oh, I don't know. I would argue that with Leadfoot.
No. James may just get you lost.
No,
so,
he's had a lot of nasty stuff too. But anyway.
So in terms of the Doctor socializing, he does the same thing again by showing up randomly uninvited to a feast.
Full of orphans.
Yeah.
Yep. Just appearing out of nowhere, mind you. That was kind of interesting, where it was like you scan around the table, he's not there, and the second scan around, he's there.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, this is sort of the introduction to the sassy Moffat woman, and I don't think she's too bad when you take her on her own. Although when you add her to the other 5,000, it does set an awkward precedent.
Yeah, it kind of does.
She wasn't bad at the time.
Right.
And then now you look around and it's a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna step out for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Don't die, Randy. Don't die.
Ron's son has to step out now to prevent heat asphyxiation. He'll be back. They always come back.
All of a sudden, we hear a womp. I'm like, oh god! Someone save him!
Thud. Anywho.
Not anywho, Doctor Who.
We switched him out of the party so Tim can get some experience.
Tim, time for solo XPs.
Oh.
Yes. Now, let's see, what is it doing? Alright, so they're at the party, they're at the feast of the turkey feast. However, you know, there's a war on, so they have to conserve rations, so all the kids only get one slice each. The girl Nancy is very specific about this.
Almost motherly, if you will.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. How foreshadow-is. Intuitive.
No, she can also come off as a sister too. Like that's, I was taking
No,
that
but that's
totally,
sister.
I was totally not prepared for her to be revealed as the boy's mother.
No, but generally, I mean, you look at that when like there are sisters like that, but you know what? Generally, those are the type of sisters where either the mother is absent or the mother's, the mother's unavailable for whatever reason. They're acting as the mother to their sibling.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
And you'd expect that there would be a lot of that during the wartime.
Now, granted, considering the fact that I think her parents were killed by the bombs, that's not entirely out of place. But it does set up for the Doctor to realize, one, she's lost someone, and two, she might be older than she looks.
Yeah.
Both of which are true, which he comes up with by his insight into dealing with people instead of scanning for alien technology.
See, I thought it would have been kind of neat if she was actually like a teenage, or not teenage, but like an older teenage mother type deal. Like if she,
yeah,
if the boy
they
was
ended
like
up making her much. They ended up making her much older, didn't they? Like she was like 20 something.
No,
yeah, like
20, but
well, yeah,
the kid's
they
like
kind of
5, so that means she would have had the kid when she was 15.
Yeah, I think
true,
they had to give way to the age of the kid.
Yeah.
So if she had been 14, 15 at the time, that would have meant that she had had the kid at like
when
10.
She was like 12, yeah, 12 or 10, 12 or 11 or something. How old
She could have
was
been
the kid?
she could have been like 18 with a 6-year-old or a 6.
I think they made him look 5, but he actually looked around 8. So
yeah, that's true too.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought it would have been kind of an interesting little shake-up to have a teenage mother on Doctor Who. That could have been pretty cool.
So yeah, if they had managed to have
if the child had been a newborn or a toddler, they could have done it.
Yeah,
but he
if they
had
had
to be old
if
enough
they
to
had managed-
speak and be rational.
if they
It
had
just
managed
wouldn't
to have
work with this script.
If they had managed to have a 3 or 4-year-old, that could be creepy enough.
Yeah. I thought he was pretty young, but I don't know.
He was
For me, sometimes the age of a child is kind of hard to tell.
I mean,
Well, like I
granted,
said,
this is
he
also
was-
television
Especially when they're wearing a gas mask.
This is also a medium where 30-year-olds play 18-year-olds and 10-year-olds
Yeah.
play 6-year-olds. So there's
it's usually the reverse is true for a child. Usually, if you're under 18, they will find somebody that's slightly older to play a younger version.
Mhm.
And I'm actually checking now.
Well, how old the actual actor was.
Yes.
Although I'm curious if they had the child use its own voice or if they had an adult woman do the voiceover.
Well, I read in the credits it said this person as the voice of the empty child.
Oh, okay.
So it was a voice actor.
That's not too surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the child's name was Jamie.
Right.
Was played by Albert Valentine. And it does not actually give me his date of birth. Let me check IMDb.
His name is Jamie. Well, I guess good
To
luck.
the Internet
He was
Movie
born in the
Database.
Highlands, then.
Still no date of birth. So I do not know. The Empty Child was his first actual television appearance. So that was his introduction.
Surprisingly, the voice was played by a male. Let's see if I can find an age for that individual. Noah Johnson.
Yeah, it just says the TARDIS data core just says he's a young boy.
Yeah,
No, like,
I was.
Young
specifics.
boy from.
He's just a. Thank you, Matt, for stealing exactly what I was about to say.
I was a young boy once.
Once.
And I
Anyway,
might be again someday.
What did Matt say?
Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh. I just didn't hear you.
We were both going, he's just a young boy from a poor family, except I was going to say a deadpan and he was singing.
Yeah, that's because you can't sing, Bill.
Well, there's that.
The thing is, it's actually a good thing I didn't hear it, because I would have had to immediately sing the next line.
I generally prefer deadpan comedy.
Yeah, that's a thing about your area. There's a lot of deadpan humorists from your region of the U.S. Actually, one of my favorites is from Boston, Mass.
We were talking about the voice of the Empty Child. His the person who played it was Albert Valentine.
Yes, I know. I was trying to figure out, because that was what you were seeing for appearance, was the boy's age.
Right.
But no, Wiki, IMDb, nobody has his actual factual age.
So he might. So basically, he's young enough that his parents are
this
protecting his identity.
Yeah, his name could be a stage name.
True. Is that the only role he's ever played?
No, he was in something the next year. Although that role was apparently much less, as his role was simply called Boy. In an episode of a series called New Tricks.
So you can teach a boy new tricks. You can't teach him a dog.
So yeah, yeah, there's no real data on when he was born and how old he was at the time.
Oh, it was.
So I would argue that he was probably not 5.
No, I think he was 6, 7, or 8, and playing 5.
The voice of the empty child is Noah Johnson. The actual actor is Albert Valentine.
Yep.
Do we know how old Noah Johnson is?
I couldn't find it. I don't know if anyone else found anything.
It'll be hard to find any kind of information like that, unless it's really popular, I would think.
Let me see here. He was... Found him on database.
There's a Noah Johnson on Twitter. I have no idea if it's the same person or not.
He was Legion and the Watcher. He was Derek in 2000.
Oh, here we go. Wait, if this is the same one, which I'm clicking on to see now, there was a Noah Johnson born on August 1, 1997, which would have made him 9 at the time. So that could make sense. It would have been prepubescent enough for to have not required a female in the voice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's
see if I scroll down. I don't see Doctor Who on his IMDb page though. So.
Yeah, this the IMDb page that they have linked to the TARDIS data core has him in 2005 for Doctor Who, 2005 Legion and the Watcher, and then 2013 Youth Pastor Kevin.
And I don't think and that one doesn't have any age or anything information, but.
We don't know. It could be the same one that's just unconnected. It could be somebody else.
Right.
We're not finding anything. So
yeah, lots of dead ends. Might as well
all I
just
can
stop.
figure is that he was probably a little older than what he was playing by at least a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody in the audience knows anything, feel free to let us know, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Like and comment, all that stuff.
But it's funny that the lady, basically winds up playing mommy to all the orphans in a way.
Yep.
They all look up to her. They're following her lead, and she's chastising them if they disobey.
Right, and she chastises the doctor for taking 2 slices of turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So she even tries to mummy the doctor.
Yep.
And that's an interesting thought. Because he's a 900-year-old Time Lord. And she's a late teen, early 20s person.
But only one of them acts their age.
Well, yeah, we have kind of mentioned the fact that the Christopher Eccleston's doctor is kind of midlife crisis doctor.
To an extent, yeah.
Of course, I also make that comparison comparing Matt Smith's doctor to senility then.
Which makes me wonder what does that make the Peter Capaldi?
We don't know yet.
Or does that make the golden years?
Well, technically, Tenet would be the golden years.
Well, I'm
And
thinking
you gotta remember,
that old 90-year-old, but still strong old person that everyone knows one of.
There's only one phase after senility, and that's death. You don't recover from being senile.
He was resurrected from the dead.
Exactly.
So he's at the beginning again.
Yeah, so we don't know what he's going to be.
Is he the Walking Dead?
Zombie Doctor!
I found the age. I found the age for Nancy. Sorry.
Oh,
the actress?
I found the age for the actress who played Nancy. She was born in 1984.
Wow.
So she would have been 22, and I think that's the age the character might have been.
I think she might have been a year or two younger, but not by much.
Yeah.
Right.
22.
Yeah, she was pretty close to actual age then.
Mm-hmm. Thing is, she did look young for her age.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, you first see Nancy, you think she's maybe 16, 17, 18.
Right.
If that.
Yeah, it looks like she hasn't done much beyond 2008.
Yeah, some people don't. They get married, they become parents, and they move on. Or they decide acting's not for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they go on to producing,
decide,
directing, etc.
Or they decide to work on stage.
That's
and a lot of these websites don't give full stage theatrical credits.
No.
Apparently she got into acting by chance. Her actress mother went for an audition and was unable to find a babysitter, so she took Florence along with her. And they needed a young girl, so that's how this young lady became an actress.
Okay.
So she's technically a child actor then.
Yeah, she was in Fairy Tale.
A lot of my favorite actors were child actors. Kurt Russell was a child actor.
Randy Aaron's trying to talk.
Sorry.
Yeah, steamrolling over me, dude.
But is it about something other than MMOs?
Yes, it is. It's about this this actress's other. I was gonna say this actress's other games. See, now you.
I'm sorry.
Bill.
She was in Fairy Tale: A True Story. That's the main thing that I recommend. I recognize from her.
And sorry, hon.
Huh?
I was just apologizing. Sorry, hon. I was just responding to Matt.
Alright, but I'm done talking. It's okay. notes. Aw, man.
Matt's sighing. Did we lose Bill again? Oh, no.
I don't think so.
No.
So our running theme
Is
throughout
Tim
this
still here?
What?
Yeah,
Tim?
everybody's here. I just lost
I'm here.
I can hear an echo sound on Bill's end, so I lost that for a moment and thought,
Really?
we lost Bill again.
I
It's
really
slight.
shouldn't have
I think it's a
headphones
static
on.
buzz from your microphone,
Huh. Oh, okay.
or maybe your computer fan or something.
Oh, okay.
But I can just barely hear it, so it's not bad.
Right.
Well,
Oh,
it's
so you
not
mean the
echo, it's
background
just
noise, so you don't mean
background
like not an actual echo, like you can hear your voices.
No, nothing like that. No. But it's noticeable when you turn your mic off that the sound goes away.
Got you. But especially now that it was brought up with the scan for technology thing, there is a running theme throughout here of the doctor interacting with people. Of course, that's tied into the Rose essentially treating him as too emotionless and detached for people by calling him Spock no less than 3 times. No, she calls him Spock twice, maybe 3 times.
She calls him Spock about 23 years before Spock exists.
Oh, and I was gonna, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think about it? It's
But Jack
1940
gets the
something.
reference.
Jack does get the reference, yes.
Yeah.
Bill, Jack's from the future. Of course he
Yes,
does.
I know.
How many memes were actually started with these 2 episodes? Because I believe this started the banana meme.
The banana meme.
This was the start of the
dancing
banana.
meme.
The dancing meme, I think, started with this one. It introduced Jack Harkness, of course,
This was
which
the start
kind of
of
became a
everything Jack
meme in himself.
Yes.
The whole Sonic. Well, I mean, it was always Sonic, but the Sonic anything else kind of started here too.
Are You My Mummy becomes popular enough that the doctor will make the joke in a room full of people who have no idea what he's talking about.
And he will make that reference just about any time he looks at a gas mask anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking,
it happens.
Well, I'm saying specifically, I think he only did it once in an episode, I think.
It was the Santarum Stratagem one, I think, where they...
Yes, and Rose was not there, Jack was not there, only the audience was there from the actual thing he was referencing.
Well, he does it in front of a bunch of unit people because they're handing out gas masks, and he hands it to him, looks at it, and goes, "Are you my mummy?" And they all look at him funny. It's like, never mind.
Yeah. And it feels so weird because he has to be making the joke for the audience. It's Rose isn't there to get the joke.
He might just be making the joke to himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do that shit. I looked at that. I mean, I can't look at a gas mask without doing that now.
Yeah. Most Who fans, yeah.
Then again, knowing the Doctor, he could just be fucking with Unit.
True, too.
Unit does not come off as being the most efficient organization under Russell T.
It doesn't come off as being the most efficient organization under Terrence Dix either.
Yes, but it comes off as a lot better than how it was treated by Russell T.
Yeah.
I mean, they come off as being incompetent. And outshone by Torchwood for most of Russell T's era.
Yes. Yes, it is.
To be fair, eventually Hydra threw a revolution and killed all the Unit leaders, and the rest of them went into hiding.
Bill, crossovers, later.
I blame French and Saunders.
I blame Bill's ability to look at an actor that appears in 2 different roles and decide they're the same person.
That happened once.
You can go to hell, Bill. You can go to hell and die.
Happened once.
Once? Once?
Yes, once.
Lies.
What was the second time?
Gandalf and Magneto.
Wait,
That
Gandalf
wasn't me.
and Magneto aren't the same person?
That was absolutely never me.
Radagast and the Doctor.
That was
course.
the one time.
Oh, you've done more than once, dude. You've referenced that quite often.
Well, I referenced that one thing more than once, but I'm thinking that was the one thing. Yes. Sometimes it's just to piss Randy off.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Not be that way.
Anyway, where were we before we got on the topic of bizarre crossovers and South Park references?
You were talking about memes started by this episode.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, you got the banana, you've got the Sonic anything but a screwdriver, started by Jack's squareness gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Are You My Mummy became a running meme on the internet.
Still is.
Yep. Everybody Lives, while not really a meme, became a quotable quote of quotiness.
Yep.
I think that was about it, but it was quite a bit.
That's quite a few, even for 2 episodes.
And yeah, there were also a whole bunch of side jokes in this. Other than the Spock thing, you had holographic Jack appearing on top of the bomb coming down with him riding the bomb, a la Doctor Strangelove.
Yep.
The second I saw that, I knew exactly what they were referencing. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. It's also very corny looking too.
It's entirely possible. I mean, I have no idea how likely this is or not, but it's entirely possible that Rose's shirt is a Buffy reference, because Buffy does wear that shirt in an episode.
The Union Jack?
Yeah.
I thought it felt a little 90s-ish.
Yeah, but still, the shirt's interesting because she's wearing a freaking British flag in the middle of the Blitz,
right.
The irony of it. Yeah, it's kind of...
Yeah.
But yeah, the shirt's a little bit Old Navy.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of this episode that kind of feels like it's a reference to the 90s and obviously early 2000s, but...
Well, if you think about it, the main goal of Russell T Davies when he created New Who was to try to make it as much like Buffy as possible while still being Doctor Who. Russell T Davies
why he had
was
his own
a
version
well-known
of
Buffy fan.
Although I don't think Buffy had a child-friendly spin-off.
No.
Unless you count Angel, that was child-friendly, wasn't it?
The Muppet episode, maybe.
Yeah.
I love the Muppet episode. Yeah.
Who's a wee little puppet man?
Like,
what are you laughing at? Well, they're laughing at the little puppet man. Ah! Yeah, that was a great episode.
Okay.
But, anytime you get to have James Marsden be a complete and total sarcastic ass is generally good.
Yeah. I think this episode is good because it speaks to humanity's innate fear of children in gas masks.
Yeah.
Well, it's doing what technically Who has done well since the original classic series, which is taking something that we are used to and then making it frightening.
When you say fear of gas masks, I just realized something else that this episode could be subliminally referencing. Because once a guy in a gas mask said, "I am your father."
I don't think so. I mean, basically,
a little.
If you look at what this is essentially a zombie horror episode. Only you replace the zombies with gas mask puppets, essentially.
Oh god, the transformation.
Plot-wise, they are pretty much zombies. Yes, visually, it's a little less visceral, yeah.
Yeah. It's a sanitized zombie, in a way. And and that means that the entire thing...
becoming part of the mass.
If you take out the gas mask figure and you put in your typical Walking Dead zombie, this quickly becomes a Romero flick.
Except without the catchy soundbite, "Are You My Mummy?" Which is used to creepy effect at times.
Oh god, yes, that is the creepiest thing. I I have mentioned before, but I will mention again for Tim's sake and for anybody that hasn't been listening to us before. I first watched this episode at 3 in the morning on a laptop in my room with the lights off.
Fun times.
Yeah, I about crawled under the bed. It absolutely freaked me out how scary it was.
I believe it was part, again, for me, it was part of a, just a constant run for that season because I was about to see season 2. But I saw it about midnight in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
I don't remember what time of the day it was when I first saw this episode, but I just remember I saw the episode and remember it was my favorite episode of the first season.
Yeah, the thing for me...
This was probably the episode that made me decide that I would be watching all 6 seasons of Doctor Who and not stopping after the first.
I'm sorry, that was Dalek for me.
It was either this, Dalek, or the combination of both.
Dalek had basically... I was kind of leery on New Who after World War III, Aliens in London. And Dalek really kind of had me go forward and had me keep watching. And then we got to this, and I was like, about ready to hide under my bed watching this episode because it was, that freaky. So I was just like, after this, I'm just like, good job. Very good job.
And also, I think it even it's a bit disconcerting because this episode is making you afraid of this little boy, and I'm thinking to myself, wait, I shouldn't be afraid of this kid. I should feel sorry for him. No.
You want to bring that kid out of the cold and make him a sandwich, serve him some soup or something.
Yeah.
But if you do, he'll kill you or turn you into one of his zombies.
Yes, and
so it's kind of taking your paternal maternal instincts and kind of tossing them on their head and yanking them around for a while.
Yes, it's like paternal instincts versus survival instincts.
Oh yeah.
That was an interesting play, and it was probably one of the more well done things about it because yes, the little kid creeped the ever loving crud out of me,
and other people too.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that are you my mummy?
Are you my mummy?
Which itself would not be scary except the repetitiveness of it and the hauntingness of it. It was very haunting.
It was a very emotionless question, which helps to the eerie effect of it.
Very automatic. It was like a tape player being replayed all over and over again.
Except it was never quite exactly the same. And there was just enough of a difference there that you could tell it wasn't a recording, which was what was freaky. The fun part was when they were listening to it on a recording.
And then
the tape ran out and nobody noticed because the kid immediately started in asking the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Rose says, "What's that noise?" It's the tape. It's out.
The tape ran out about 45 seconds ago.
30 seconds ago.
Blink, 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 blink.
Don't blink.
Turn.
What's fucking Moffat episode?
We'll cuss that one in a couple of weeks there, Bill.
I just thought of something. When the doctor sends the empty child to his room...
Go to your room.
There's a moment when the child does the Michael Myers head nod turn thing. Where
someone else is a Michael Myers fan?
He turns the...
Yeah.
Like, he turns his head to the side. Now, I don't know if that was deliberate or if that was just a coincidence, but I think it's...
I mean, there are only so many ways to do, completely non-verbal, non-facial communication, and that's probably popular enough. It was probably subconscious they had picked that up as something that, was a very effective nonverbal communication they'd seen and imitated it for that scene.
I don't know, how big are the Michael Myers movies in England?
I'm not sure.
Because, if they're not that, then it was purely coincidental.
Yeah, I can see that you have a limited range of options when your voice and face are completely obscured.
I feel like many Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing fans would have ended up gravitating toward Halloween over time.
But it also had Donald Pleasance, so I would think it would connect a little bit there too.
Donald Pleasance. The only thing I can think of as Donald Pleasance is, wasn't he the president in Escape from New York?
Yes.
Yes. And he was Blofeld in You Only Live Twice.
It just always struck me odd that the president of the United States had a British accent.
especially since it's still the law that you have to be born here to be the president.
Yes. All I can figure is that he was the child of Americans stationed overseas and thus had dual nationality.
Technically speaking, yeah.
But it was just one of the
I remember an interview with John Carpenter where he had to explain to Donald Pleasance, like, why am I the president? He says, you're the love child of Ronald Reagan and some other person.
It wasn't Margaret Thatcher, wasn't? Because that would just make me ew.
Oh.
Maybe it was Margaret Thatcher.
Speaking of Margaret Thatcher, I actually saw someone in a video game playing Margaret Thatcher, and they were trying to do bad accents and stuff, and the guy was Margaret would have just went,
Margaret Thatcher?
Margaret Thatcher smash! And actually, there was a British girl there, and she said, actually, that's pretty accurate.
Hey, we have seen the Thatcher bots.
Margaret Thatcher is the Hulk.
Yeah.
Oh God. If anybody knows your Marvel, the scariest thing in the world just popped into my brain. The Stepford Thatchers.
Okay.
I actually want to become.
I showed like a couple of weeks ago, a week ago. I showed Bill a sketch comedy from Britain where they had Cybermen dressed up as Margaret Thatcher and one of her minions.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher's not a very popular figure in England.
You know what we haven't talked about yet?
Oh.
The first appearance of Captain Jack.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Captain Jack will get you by tonight.
And of course, his not quite his first line, but pretty close to it is "nice bottom."
Yes. Followed by
after which he responds. Too. Yeah, after which he responds, "I'm talking about the girl, but you have a nice bottom too." Mm-hmm. Something to that effect.
Yeah, Captain Jack. I mean, John Barrowman pretty much stepped out there and became Captain Jack and pretty much sold that character to like everybody in the world.
And still, it was a tip of a hat.
He came out there pretty much a unknown actor. I mean, he'd done a few things, but nothing popular.
Nothing really huge.
And walked off a star by the end of that season. And this pretty much is what made him.
Mm-hmm.
And he is now considered a national treasure in England.
And America.
Like, and I remember seeing on some of the, like the Doctor Who Confidential, he really did make decisions as pivotal and, who Jack was as much as Russell and Stephen did.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure that he pretty much would say something and Russell was just like, I love that, we'll go with that. Yeah, I'm looking at his credits prior to Doctor Who, and he had a few things. But anything big he was put in, he had only a minor role. I mean, the biggest thing on there that he had a claim to fame as possibly a big role in was Shark Attack 3 Megalodon.
I saw reviews for that.
I'm
that
curious.
Movie's hilarious in all the
curious,
wrong ways.
Had he ever worked with any of the, any of the Doctor Who names that would, a reason why they would think, hey, this guy, he's the one we want?
No, mind you, he's also a very big stage actor.
That
wouldn't show up on IMDb, would it?
No, it wouldn't.
He tried the Broadway database.
He did a lot of West End theater from 1989 onward.
I was wondering why I got no results until I realized I searched Jack Harkness instead of John Barrowman.
Yeah, he was in like Cole Porter's Anything Goes. He was a Phantom of the Opera. There was a whole bunch of stuff he did in the 90s during all of it on Broadway. He was in the he did the same role in the 2003 revival of Anything Goes, as well as the original 1989 Anything Goes. He was in, prior to Jack Harkness, he was in the stage version of A Few Good Men. So he did some very serious...
apparently.
He did a lot of stuff prior to that, but he... he was in, apparently, The Untouchables, the 87 movie, but he was an uncredited role as a street person.
So he was an extra.
Oh. Yeah, he was an extra. He was the younger man in Putting It Together, direct from Broadway. He was lead tenor stormtrooper in The Producers. So, was one of the people singing Springtime for Hitler. But really, that was all he had prior to, that Method, Shark Attack 3. He had no real serious TV or movies prior to Doctor Who, where he came out as Captain Jack Harkness and basically became the darling of Britain. Because it was after his roles as Captain Jack in Doctor Who and Torchwood that got him stuff like Britain's Got Talent and the dozens of other things he's been presenting and doing stuff. Strictly Come Dancing. So, and of course he's well known over here too. He was apparently the voice of the Stranger in the Superhero Squad show. And of course is the ongoing role as Malcolm Merlin in Arrow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Doctor Who is what earned him that.
Oh, I'm very sure Doctor Who is what earned him that.
Or maybe more specifically Torchwood, because he's quite a bit darker in Torchwood than Doctor Who.
Well, he's very versatile.
Yeah.
As an actor, he's done a lot of different stuff. So he's
as versatile as any Doctor, but of course he can never be the Doctor after being Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
That and the fact I don't think that allow him to be so with his British accent. I'm just saying, there's kind of an ongoing thing that the Doctor has to be, English.
True.
Or at least British.
Yeah.
Because apparently Scotsmen are allowed now.
It ain't English then.
Well, like I said, British. It ain't English. Thank you. Now I'm starting. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Captain Tate.
British.
Now I want to see you break into spontaneous Shakespeare.
Not happening.
To be or not to be?
No,
It was a sonnet, wasn't it?
It was a comedy skit done by Catherine Tate, who, played Donna Noble. And David Tennant.
I think it was before she played Donna Noble.
No, it was not.
Really?
Nope, it's made as quotes from it was 2009 that particular skit came out. So it was just after her stint as Donna Noble. But she's basically playing one of her other more annoying characters, Lauren something. Lauren Cooper.
Lauren Cooper.
Yes. And
no relation to Gwen Cooper.
And David Tennant is playing their new English teacher. And she goes on a bit because he's using a Scottish accent. How, since he's Scottish, how can he teach English? And then he keeps trying to get them on the topic of Shakespeare. And eventually she raises her hand and goes, "Aren't you the doctor?" And it goes on until he pisses him off. And then after he completely dismisses her, and sends her to the principal's office, she spouts into basically saying the exact same stuff she's been saying with a Shakespearean accent. And then he eventually just gets pissed off at it, pulls out the sonic screwdriver from his pocket, and turns her into a Rose Tyler action figure.
She still ain't bothered.
And then he just looks at it and goes, "A rose by any other name."
Wah, wah, wah.
She's one power we haven't seen the sonic screwdriver do yet.
Turn people into action figures?
Yeah.
I would hope not. Because it
would be that'd be a little OP, and it would be a little mastery.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a little too close to how the master used
either the master or at best Piedmon.
Excuse me. Tissue compression eliminator. I need to say no more. Turns people into dolls.
Even if you consume it, even if you assume it's not killing him like the TCE would, it still makes him into Piedmon.
Either way, yeah, it's a little too dark for the Doctor.
But yeah, since we're starting to go in a bit about Jack. The main purpose of this episode was written to introduce Jack. As far as I know, the vast majority of the rest of it was Moffat's creation.
Yeah, but Jack Harkness had to be introduced because he was important to the series finale, if nothing else. And yes, John Barrowman does the most unbelievable job as Jack Harkness in this.
And actually, part of why he's important to the finale is what we kind of skipped over. I started to mention it, and then we ended up going to a different topic. Is that this is plays a large role into doctors essentially rehabilitating back into society, dealing with people. Everybody lives. Having somebody other than his girlfriend around. That's a large part of the Doctor's arc here.
It helps him recover from his PTSD.
Right.
Which is essentially his ninth persona, is the Doctor with PTSD. He spent, we don't know how long, fighting the Time War. He's burnt out. He's traumatized and everything, and he's in a horrific shape as of Rose, and he slowly gets better by inches and then drops off again in Dalek, and this is kind of bringing him back to being a functioning Doctor.
For example, early in this episode, he's all, human brains, I don't know how you can live in them, those tiny little things, which is probably ripped from Douglas Adams, come to think about it. But,
quite possibly. I think Russell was a bit of an Adams fan, too. Especially if you take a look at the End of the World,
and the second invasion.
Yeah, and both of which were two very. I mean, the End of the World, I remember watching, going, "Oh my God, this is so Douglas Adams." And
only of a dark twist.
If there was a restaurant there.
Do you know Douglas Adams, Tim?
He wrote Hitchhiker's Guide, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know him personally, but I know of him.
Okay. I'm just asking because we got through about a season of this podcast before we discovered the fact that Bill had never actually read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, that's why he's reading it now.
Yes, we pretty much sat him down at E gunpoint. Yeah, we sat him down at E gunpoint and made him read it.
Read the giant gold-paged book, Bill. people.
Although I still haven't read the book.
But, so yeah, yeah, I was just asking to make sure we didn't have to indoctrinate you two. I kind of feel that Douglas Adams is almost a mandatory reading for any Doctor Who fan because Douglas Adams actually was a script editor for Doctor Who at one point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The more you know.
Yeah, and his later books, starting with like Life, the Universe, and Everything, were written right after he had gotten canned from being script editor for Doctor Who by John Nathan Turner, who basically didn't get his humor. And that's why that book is such a downturner.
He wanted the show to be darker and everything anyway.
Mm-hmm. And that's why that particular book is such a downturner, because he's basically using it as a vehicle to vent his anger at the...
the book in which pretty much Marvin is the least pessimistic thing about the book.
But yeah, Russell T was a big Douglas Adams fan, and it shows every now and again.
But as I was saying, he goes from the insult, humanity, this and that, stupid apes, to by the beginning of next episode, best buddies, him, Rose, and Jack, not a care in the world. They've been going around, Kyoto, wherever else, and they're just having the absolute time of their lives.
I didn't think Kyoto was next.
It might have been in between the next two.
It was Empty Child, Dr. Dances, and wasn't Boomtown next?
This was,
yeah, it was.
And this is, remember, Boomtown, this is the episode where Mickey walks in on them early in the episode, and they're just, complete buddy-buddy, having the absolute time of their lives, talking about travel in time and space. And Mickey's, oh, you think you're, so brilliant or whatever. And they're all like, absolutely yes.
Absolutely yes. Bite us, homeboy. Not meaning in that normal sense, meaning in the fact that he stays at home and blogs. Literally, he took over the Who is the Doctor website after the rather unfortunate death of Clive. Yes,
possibly or at least the only on-screen kill by the Autons
that we're aware of. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The only one that we actually see on screen. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I've said a few times before, if the New Who was any campier, it would be 60s Batman. It does, especially the Russell T Davies era tends to play up the camp a bit. Moffat tones it down, but unfortunately he doesn't replace it with much.
Other than silly things, and sometimes stupid things.
Yeah, Jack came in, and a good chunk of this was kind of the redemption of Jack Harkness and the Doctor redeeming himself while redeeming Jack Harkness. Because remember, that was part of Jack's sacrifice at the end. It was something he wouldn't have done prior to meeting the Doctor. And so the Doctor basically took Jack and turned him from this, this rogue into a hero. That's been an ongoing theme because he kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, that's pretty much the theme of the Russell T Davies era. I mean, he turns Rose from. Rose is arguably remains selfish, but becomes a heroic person. Martha doesn't necessarily go through the same changes, but she definitely makes sacrifices and saves a lot of people. Donna, I don't think I even need to explain her arc.
Her zero to hero to zero arc, yes.
It's like
so this is really the first case of that, though, is Jack Harkness.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes off as such a lovable rogue,
Mm-hmm.
And it's really part of what makes this episode is Jack Harkness.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Harkness and the horror aspect of it is what really makes this work. And we've got about 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
Since there's 4 of us now, do we want to move on to final thoughts? Or actually, no. Let's discuss.
5 of
let's
us.
spend 5 of us. Sorry. Let's spend a few minutes talking about the conclusion of it. The whole nanogenes thing, and the everybody lives.
Are you saying in context of later Moffat writing, or just in its own?
In its own thing here, because we'll discuss the later Moffat writing when we get to the later Moffat writing. Because yes, that was the other thing that was really important, that the Doctor had a day like this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What did he have before this?
In this season, we had Rose, in which there was an Auton invasion. We had the end of the world, where Tree Lady is burnt to death, possibly others.
People died.
We had the Unquiet Dead, which I think
where
had at least one death.
Gwyneth died.
Yeah.
Yep.
We had
Aliens of London, World War
Aliens of
III,
London.
where a bunch of people died.
A bunch of people died, yeah.
Which was a camp slasher.
Then we had Dalek, where the entire facility died.
Lots of people died, yeah.
Then we had the Long Game,
where the Jagrafess was basically was taking people up and killing them.
Yeah.
So yes, people died.
Yeah.
Then we had Father's Day, where the timeline, the universe almost died.
And Pete
and
had to sacrifice himself to maintain the universe, and that brings us up
his
to
companion's father had to die, so people still
died. And this
died.
is coming out of the Time War, where everybody died.
And let's see, even if we go back a bit farther, if we just look at televised Doctor Who up until that point. Before that, we had the TV movie where there were people gunned down. There was the guy that Eric Roberts originally played before becoming the Master that died. Possibly others. Survival, I'm pretty sure some people died.
Yep. If you think about Remembrance of the Daleks, that was a particularly nasty episode. There had been a
Ghostlight.
Yes. People got turned into soup.
People
got turned into stone.
People
got turned into soup.
Right.
And Curse of Fenric. Battlefield, I think there was a few deaths.
People absolutely died in Battlefield.
Yep. Silver Nemesis, people died. I do not remember the Happiness Patrol, but I'm pretty sure people died.
Pretty sure there probably was
fairly
somebody.
Certain, Great and Secret Show, there were a few casualties.
Great Show of the Galaxy, people died.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Great and Secret Show.
Remembrance of the Daleks, people died. Dragonfire, people died.
Yep.
I don't remember if anyone died in Delta and the Bannermen.
I think there was probably a couple.
Is there like a whole bus full of people who die?
I didn't think they all died, though.
I can't even remember what that episode's about, and I've watched it twice.
I know people died in Paradise Towers because they were taken to the cleaners.
Yeah.
And then the Ronnie traps, Lacurtians dying.
More people dying.
And that takes
Time Lord has pretty much had plenty of deaths.
Yep, pretty much throughout it. And before that, I mean, this was the dark era of Doctor Who, where people were dying left and right. So
6th and 5th, tons of people dying.
So it has been a long-ass time since the Doctors had a day like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I just generally see the rest of the T. Davies era as being kind of dark and full of death. And a little bit,
Not always. Not always. I don't see most of the Davies era is actually, the Moffat episodes and the Davies episodes are by far the worst.
Yeah.
As far as people dying.
I actually see Moffat's. Well, nobody actually dies in this except for like the Nazi bombs falling on everyone, but.
No, that's the whole thing. This is the exception. This is the everybody lives.
Right.
Yeah.
But
everybody that dies related to this episode is they die before the Doctor gets there.
But then you get to the other episodes in the Moffat stuff, which we're going to update. We've got Girl in the Fireplace, where an entire spaceship crew is turned into parts.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Blink, where you've got the Weeping Angel sending people back into time
to die of old age in present day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but they're not it's kind
I gotta
of a
say,
natural
if I have to die, yeah, I'm like if I were forced to die of old age, I would not consider that a particularly.
It is and it isn't, because the fact that you finally get back to the place you were before, and then you die.
Well.
Yeah, and you had this entire alternate life, like halfway through your life.
Killers. It's the most humane killers, but it's.
I still see Moffat's stories as fairly, not exactly lighthearted, but they're light on death. Like most people.
Generally, once he becomes script editor, it becomes pretty.
It becomes more fairy tale like, where there is definitely danger, but you don't.
People die, but they get better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's really kind of counterintuitive to Doctor Who, really. I mean, yeah, people tended to die a lot in a lot of the original classic Who, and Moffat kind of has
played that down hard.
Yeah. But no, I mean, of not taking the Moffat era, just of the Russell T Davies eras, a lot of Moffat's episodes are the ones with the higher body counts, especially like Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
That one,
thousands, hundreds of thousands, actually.
Yeah. That one was pretty bad.
Is there a body count in Tooth and Claw?
Oh. Tooth and Claw. I think almost everyone we see on screen, except for maybe 4 or 5 people, die.
Yeah, pretty much the entire household and all the monks die.
So then the next episode where everyone lives, then I think, is the Idiot's Lantern.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one I was going to point out was an Everybody Lives.
And then, let's see if there's another one.
He gets about 1 a season, I think.
Does everyone live in Fear Her at the end?
Yes.
Yes. So he gets 2 that season.
So we get 2 that season, yeah.
I think everybody lived in 42, didn't they? No, there were some people burnt there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where that would be in season 3. Definitely not where the Master was involved, yet all of that was kind of undone, so the kind of bizarre offiness there.
Everybody lives from a certain point.
I don't think. Well, it depends on it depends on how you feel about the Angels. Arguably, nobody dies in Blank.
Yeah.
I would consider it that way.
Anyway. Thinking living a second life halfway through your life and dying an old man in the time period you left is still kind of a little.
Blink is the Deathlight episode of series 3.
Anyway, we are now up to 10 minutes left, so we should get into our final thoughts.
Yeah.
Probably should.
I want to start. How about we start? Tim, what are your general thoughts about the episode? We'll give time for our rating later. So just in this case, altogether, how you feel about the episode and anything that you wanted to bring up, but there was never time to.
This episode cements for me why of the modern doctors, Christopher Eccleston is my favorite of the modern doctors, because I empathize with him the most because he when he feels, he really feels. Like when he feels joy, he feels joy. And when he feels anger, he feels anger. Whereas with the other doctors, David Tennant and Matt Smith, they're sort of like more detached from their emotions. They've gotten sort of away from them.
I don't really feel that way, but
I guess you could define him as being more raw.
Yeah, they have different. Yeah. They handle emotions in a different way. I mean, Tennant, like he's visibly holding back, so he's not necessarily detached, but he's holding back in a way that Nine doesn't really. Like you can tell, like he could stay on the verge of tears for an entire episode and never actually cry.
Mm-hmm.
But you can still look into his eyes and see it.
Right.
I can't tell so much with Matt Smith. I know the guy's a good actor, but he was given a very one-dimensional character to play. So you really can't tell the range of emotions. Because he's like...
Except for certain moments.
Very rare moments.
I mean, definitely, the 11th Doctor gets happy very well, and he gets angry very well. But yeah, he definitely tends to bury his sadness behind a facade.
Yeah, but in terms of pure raw emotion, yes, I would say 9 kind of takes the cake, takes the jelly baby, as it were.
Similarly, 9 has a very honest tint about him that, granted, anyone in decent society tends to hide. For the whole human brains line. That's actually what draws me to the 1st and 9th Doctors. Just that sort of open honesty about these stupid imbeciles he has to keep solving problems for.
In other words, his lack of tact.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any other final thoughts there, Tim?
No, I think that's pretty much it. This was my favorite episode of the Christopher Eccleston for season 1 story.
Okay. Okay. Bill, do you have any thoughts?
Thoughts on this? This is definitely one of my top episodes this season. I mean, granted, I have a lot of top episodes this season, so it's hard to say that. But there are some some really good episodes this season, and this is definitely part of it. Probably the best I've ever seen horror done in Doctor Who. Altogether, just pretty much
absolutely fantastic.
And that's pretty much what there is for me to say about the episode.
All right, Matt?
I have to agree with Bill. This was actually a pretty stellar year, and it needed to be because it was the first year, and this is definitely one of the better episodes. Very well done emotional drama, as well as a really well done horror story for the Doctor Who series. For all the attempts that they have done at horror, there's only maybe a couple others since the restart of Doctor Who that got close to this.
Okay, Aaron?
I really like it. As dark as it gets and as scary as it gets, the ending is just so uplifting and so it's an episode that really pays off in the end. It has a fantastic ending, and to be honest, I kind of tear up every time I see the ending. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. All right. My own final thoughts is of the season. This is probably my second favorite storyline. Seconded only to Dalek, which only beats it narrowly. It is well written. It is well acted. It is scary when it should be scary. It in that way, it reminds me a lot of the Holmes era of the 3rd and 4th Doctors. And yet it has that climactic payoff, which you just see, the whole, the Doctor beaming like Father Christmas because he finally gets a break.
Right.
A much needed break, and John Barrowman is wonderful. It's just everything worked for this episode. Okay, ratings. We will do that in the same order that we did the closing thoughts. Tim first, so give it 1 to 5. You can give it a half mark if you prefer. Actually, technically 0 to 5. Give it a half mark if you prefer, since we have had that fateful rating before.
So if you give it a 0, if you give this particular one a 0, you might get lynched.
It doesn't sound like he will.
Fair warning.
So. I would give this series, this story, 4.5. 4.5 out of 5. I don't really feel comfortable giving it a whole 5, but 5, just because I don't want to. I'm trying to work on my being more judgmental. Actually, screw it. I'm giving this episode a 5 out of 5.
Okay, 5 out of 5. Bill.
I've given plenty of episodes, plenty of scores below 5. I see no reason not to give this a 5.
All right, Matt.
Oh. This one definitely ranks really high. The question is 4.5 or 5 out of 5. Oh. You know what? I always keep doing it. Flip a coin. 5.
Okay. Aaron?
I'm gonna say probably a 4.5. As good as it is, there are some things that kind of annoy me.
Combo breaker.
Huh?
I said combo breaker.
Yes.
Combo breaker.
Okay, Johan?
Alright, and I am also going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. Mind you, it is only because in the same series there is an episode I like slightly better, and that being the before-mentioned Dalek. If I could give this a 4.9, I would be giving it a 4.9. Because it is darn close. I just think that Christopher Eccleston's performance is just slightly better in Dalek. With the same quality of writing and acting and special effects. So
altogether, we've given this episode a 4.8 out of 5.
Cool.
One of our highest episodes. I think only Day of the Doctor, I think, is rated higher.
I think
Day of the Doctor and 1 or 2 others.
11th Hour and not Curse of St. John. Bells of St. John, I think both had higher. At least 11th Hour did.
Okay. So that will conclude our review here of The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances. If you have not seen this episode and have listened to us, I would recommend watching this episode. It is one of the best of Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in next week when we will be doing The Girl in the Fireplace, Stephen Moffat's second season episode. Or second series episode for Doctor Who, I should say. With David Tennant and Billy Piper.
And poor Mickey.
And poor Mickey, yep.
And Mickey's one episode in space.
Yep.
Unless you count the Dalek mothership.
He was not on the Dalek mothership.
He wasn't? Yes, he was. So was Jackie.
That's
Mickey
later.
and Jackie were both there.
That's much later.
Yeah, that much later. Okay, I was thinking Dalek Mothership from Parting of the Waves. Sorry.
No, there was no Mickey there.
Yep. Okay. No. So yeah, we'll be recovering that next week. See you guys then.
Good night.
Good night.
Till next time, everybody.